But throughout that almost 10 and a half years in that field, I grew an extensive network, mostly in the business community, because I was dealing with businesses, um, serving clients and selling them our services. And when I migrated into this role, my network kind of grew in all sorts of different ways because I'm connected with so many different types of businesses and different types of people. We're definitely going to debunk the myths that networking is just about collecting business cards, because it's not. And it's not just about getting a ton of names to say, I'm connected with all these people. It's more than just getting the contact information. It's about giving value and receiving value back. So as I said, my experience with networking grew exponentially when I started this role, because it opened several different doors um, in 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 my network, different doors that weren't open prior when I was at my last job experience. And it's been very nice to be able to grow different networks in the sense of different skill sets or different business avenues, different connections. And it's it has helped me a lot to grow in that sense of my job. So the debunking myths part, like I said earlier, networking isn't just about collecting business cards. Collecting business cards is easy. I have a bunch right here. I always have some on my desk, some in my pockets, some in my wallets from anywhere I go. It's a good thing to have when you're networking with people because it's an easy way to exchange your information up front. There's also social media. That's an easy way. A lot of people tend to connect in these professional networking settings through LinkedIn, which is also a great tool. But the networking part is clearly about making meaningful and purposeful and valuable connections. There has to be meaning behind a connection. Otherwise, it's just a connection. It's just another name in your database. If a connection doesn't offer a business value aspect or a career value aspect, we can add to that, then it's still a good connection, but it would be more considered a personal connection or an acquaintance of sort if it doesn't offer that business or career aspect. So there are kind of those two types of networking and connections that you can build with people. So when we think about networking, we want to think definitely about quality over quantity. And I know this is something that is repeated in a lot of things. You want quality over quantity. Quantity is still good, but quantity may not correlate into a quality of the connection. So good quality contacts, having fewer, are usually better than a large quantity of contacts that are just there to be there. If you make sure that your contacts, especially in a professional setting, are of quality to what you seek to achieve in your networking goals. So whether it's advancing your career, whether it's advancing your business or making connections within your business, these are all goals that you have to set when you go into a networking type of event. And we'll cover some of those things a little bit later on. When we talk about weak ties, and I know that this is something that you might think, well, what does a networking have to do with a weak tie? A weak tie is what you would consider to be almost a third degree connection. So it's an acquaintance. It's someone that you might know through someone else. And that is where sometimes the opportunities come from. They'll more than likely come from acquaintances more than close friends. Your close friends already know what you do. They already know who you are. They already know what you're looking for. But acquaintances don't often know all of these different things of you compared to a close friend. So there's always value in keeping eyes on what you would consider the weak ties, the third degree connection, or the people that you would consider acquaintances. As we talked about earlier, there is now in the market, in the networking area, a digital shift. So networking now happens a lot online, just as much as in person, if not more even since COVID. We are here today doing this presentation, and in a way, we are networking. right? You get to hear me give you some tips, and I get to answer some of your questions that you might have later on, where we form a connection through that. And this connection may continue either by email or even connecting on social media. Mostly LinkedIn is the professional platform, but people connect on all sorts of social media just to stay in touch. And we'll cover those kind of touch points here in a bit. But the digital shift is not something that can be ignored. It's something that is happening. It's going to continue to happen. And we need to embrace it as the next kind of logical move into the networking forum. It's an easier way to keep in touch with people and an easier way to follow up after you have been introduced to someone new in your network. So when you're networking with someone, there's an important part of the networking. When you first meet someone, you have such little time to make your first impression. Generally, that time is kind of studied at 30 to 45 seconds. That is the window that you have to make a first impression with someone that is going to determine if they like you, if they connect with you, and if they're going to continue to invest time in the conversation. When you introduce yourself, leading with value, it's going to create a long-term relationship. And leading with value can be many things. It's not necessarily a tangible value. It's not, oh, here's what I can offer you. It's just value in the connection. We'll look at some of those here in a bit. But you always have to keep in mind that when you're introducing yourself, when you have that 30 to 45-second window to make that first impression, that is where you have to shine, essentially. That is your one and only shot. You don't often get a second chance to make that first impression. So those 30 to 45 seconds are the most crucial of any introduction, whether you're introducing yourself to someone or another person is introducing you to someone. That 30 to 45 seconds happen really quick. The difference, I guess, when you have a third party, a third person introducing you to someone is that there's already a value created before you even introduce yourself. Let's say Joël would introduce me to one of you, and I'm just picking on you, Joël, because you're an easy target. Let's say Joël would introduce me to one of you. There is already value there because Joël came to me and said, hey, I think you need to meet this person. Let me introduce you to them. So it's a little bit easier for you to make a first impression because there's that third party that has said, I think you should meet that person. When you're introducing yourself to someone, which happens often in a networking scenario, you then are on your own to create that value and to get that person to trust and like you at the onset of the conversation. So now the strategic approach to networking. We touched on this briefly earlier, but now we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive. And this is the first point of identifying your goals. So when you go into a networking scenario, which we host a lot of networking events, probably 10 throughout the year, and then different ones that also have networking aspects either before or after certain events. It's important to kind of have a strategy in place, kind of an idea of what do I want to accomplish today by networking with the people that are going to be in this room. What am I looking for? What kind of connections do I want to make? Do I just want to make some strategic acquaintances? Do I want to find things that align with my career, with my business goal? Do I want to find mentorship? Do I, just have some clear goals set for yourself? Now, this is not always possible, the second point. If you have an idea of who the people that are going to be in a room where you're attending an event. So let's say it's specific to your career or your business. It's always a good idea to just, if you can get access to some of the attendees that will be there, to kind of map out and get an idea of who do I want to approach strategically to try to add them to my network. That's not always possible because most events don't tend to share the exact attendees that will be there. However, if you're going to say an event that is a trade show or a career fair or anything like that, there would be a list of companies that would be there. If it's career or business oriented, you can look at that list and say, okay, strategically, I would want to connect with at least these top 5 that are at this event. So these are going to be my number 1 goals. And then I can move on to other things that are less of a priority. But you always kind of have to determine what's that priority for you and for achieving the goals that you're looking out of that event. So there are also different networking styles. There's some people that are more introverts. There's people that are more extroverts. I fall in the category of more of an extrovert myself. So I have an easier time presenting myself, introducing myself, maybe doing some public speaking and things like that, which that is one way. Introverts will be more into the one-on-one introduction. They would rather meet someone by themselves over coffee, over a phone chat, maybe over even a virtual meeting. And that's perfectly fine too. It's up to you to identify where you fall in that spectrum. Are you more of an introvert when it comes to networking, or an extrovert? And then you adapt your style based on that. So when you meet someone, an introvert might follow up and say, let's meet for coffee, or have a chat online in a couple of weeks type thing. Whereas an extrovert might just say, we'll see you at the next event, or, we can connect in a group. There are all these different types of networking styles. So in making a connection that matters, when you want to network and make sure that the connections that you make matter, it's just about, one of the steps is crafting a strong introduction. So you want to make it brief. You don't want to, take too much time when you introduce yourself. It has to be straight to the point, and kind of how your introduction. And I skipped the slide a little too early. Sorry about that. There we go. So how to craft a strong introduction. We'll start with clarity and confidence. You have to say your name clearly. A good firm handshake is always a good practice to do, because that just shows a little bit of commitment in your introduction. Warm, friendly tone, and especially one important thing is making eye contact, just letting the person know that you're engaged in this conversation and that you're listening to what they have to say. Leading with context is often important as well. So you mention your role or what you do for your business in a very quick one-liner. For example, I would say, hi, I'm Mark. I work with the Chamber of Commerce and I help local businesses grow through strategic connections. That's who I am. That's what I do. It's fast, it's easy, it's to the point, and it kind of gives a global kind of idea as to what I'm doing at that event. You can also add a hook. A hook is just something memorable that a person will remember in your engagement. So I can add for myself, and this is a personal example. I could say I'm also a hobbyist photographer, and I've recently participated in a contest, or I've done several events around town, or just a little tidbit of other information that what your professional aspirations or business aspirations are. Just a little bit of something outside the box. You have to keep in mind to tailor it to the situation. So different settings can call for a different introduction. All networking events are not the same. They're not the same people that are going to be there. They're not the same types of companies that are going to be there. So you just got to keep in mind, and that goes back to knowing who is in the room that we talked about earlier. One of the best ending parts of a great introduction is kind of to end it with a question. And a simple question, because people like to talk about themselves. You can end your introduction with, what brings you to this event, or what kind of work do you do? What does your business do? Just a quick open-ended question. So if we put all of those things together, my quick introduction, meeting any of you, would be, hi, my name is Mark. I'm the Director of Membership with the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Moncton. I help local businesses grow through strategic connection. I'm also a hobbyist photographer that have recently did a lot of events around Moncton, and I'm looking forward to meeting people that have other similar interests. What brings you here today for this event, or you can add something like, what does your business do in the area? and a little bit of an open-ended question. The famous elevator pitch that we hear often about is kind of falls into this post-introduction. So when that second person your introduction or you introduced yourself to gives their kind of 30 seconds, oh, hi, I'm so and so, this is what I do, these are the things I might have in common with you, and this is the reason why I'm here today. The conversation kind of gets going, and that's where you want to make the most out of that time. You don't want to jeopardize or monopolize anyone's time and only connect with one or two people during a networking event where you could have connected with more. So if you keep it under a minute, that's a pretty good, just kind of like, again, what you do, what you're looking for, and focus on value and outcomes, not just your titles. And what I mean by value and outcomes is what you're looking to gather from this experience or from this connection. It's important to make it relevant to who you're speaking with, in the sense that if you're speaking to someone that is, for example, in real estate, you're not going to be talking about insurance because this is relevant to what they are doing. Some of the don'ts when you do your elevator pitch into who you are and what you're looking for is not just to rattle off a list of achievement or kind of your resume, if you will. That will kind of just deter people from talking in further because they will think, well, all you want to do is kind of, tap yourself on the shoulder and say, this is what I've done. And you should find value in that. Unless you're speaking with someone that is in a similar industry as yourself or a similar career path, you tend to avoid jargon or acronyms that people might not understand, right? Depending on who you're talking to, they might not understand what a KPI is or any type of other little kind of those acronyms that we use in a professional settings. Another key thing, and we talked about this in the do's, is not to dominate the conversation. So it's kind of a tennis match, right? It's a give and take. It goes back and forth. It's important to allow that natural back and forth to happen and not monopolize the whole time during the conversation. Same way as to not sound rehearsed or robotic. Now, this sometimes can be difficult, especially if you attend a lot of networking types of events, because you'll meet people, you tend to repeat the same things because nothing changes from one event to the other. And you can do that, but all while remaining kind of authentic and not too rehearsed and too scripted. So you alternate some of the words, maybe you alternate the order in which you do your introductions, little things like that that will change it from time to time. Most important thing is don't forget to smile, because a smile, even over the phone, is contagious, right? Even if you're connecting with someone on a phone, you don't see them, I can almost guarantee you they will feel it if you're smiling or if you're frowning, just through your language and through the way that you're approaching the conversation. So part of networking is leveraging events and opportunities that come your way. So example of that is here today. You have leveraged an opportunity to connect with other people that are seeking advice on networking, and that's helpful. So when you see an event come up, and any event can be a networking opportunity, there's always value in exploring, is this something that is worth it for me? You have virtual networking and social media like we're doing today, and through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. And, just keeping in mind how to maximize your return on your networking at events. So this comes back to identifying these top 5 people that we talked about earlier that you might want to connect with that align with what you are looking for. Consistency over transaction is important. So it's how to stay engaged with a person that you might have met in a networking setting without being that person. And by that person, simply generalizing, and I'm sure some of you have experienced this, if you have someone that reaches out to you every single day with either an ask or something like that, or tries to monopolize your time within a conversation, there is a way to be consistent with following up on your networking connections without being overbearing on that front. And that is important to kind of balance, because you want to be consistent, but you don't want to be overbearing at the same time. So it's kind of a blend of following up, not too close to one another, and just keeping it fresh and light each time. This is a perfect segue into the power of follow-ups, the best practice for staying in touch with your new network connections. So, active listening when you are meeting someone will help you in the power of your follow-ups, because you will understand what they do, what they're searching for, or how you can give value to them in a future interaction. If you find yourself in a position where you are able to ask thoughtful follow-up questions, that shows that you were genuinely interested in, and you're making the other person's feel valued in what they are giving you in that interaction. You can always take mental or even written notes if you have a little notepad or anything like that. Some people like to put it on their phones. It all depends. But it can be little triggers to circle back on, especially when you go into an event and you're going to meet a lot of people. This is not something that you need to do in front of the person. It's something that once you wrap up that conversation and you're walking away, you can take out your phone real quick, open a notepad and put their name and say, okay, they were this, that, we talked about this and that. Just a few little keynotes so that when you do follow up later, maybe in 24, 48 hours, you can bring those points back. It was really nice talking to you about such and such, and I'd be very interesting to learn more about other things that may have been brought up in that conversation. A recommended guideline to stay in touch with people after an event where you've met is generally to follow up within 24 to 48 hours. So a day or two. And again, bringing that back up to reference something in your conversation, which those little keynotes sometimes can help. And when possible, offer a value in your follow-up. So if you can share a resource, another connection, or extend an invitation maybe to something that you're doing or that you're hosting, can help with your follow-up. When we talk about creating value for your network, there's many things that you can do to do that. And part of it sometimes is just sharing another connection, which we do a lot through the connector program. Part of it, if some of you have already met with a connector like myself, we will kind of chit chat about your experience, your background, and then we will go and introduce you or give you 3 connections from our network that best meet what you do and where you want to go. So that's offering value to that connection in the sense that, hey, here's 3 other people that you can connect with that might be able to help you grow your professional network and get you in touch with different aspects of what you're looking to connect with. Leveraging your network for business growth or career advancement, because we understand that not everyone's a business person. Not everyone is building or growing their business. So networking is important when you're in business, but also when you're in a career and you're looking to do career advancement. For example, you must have seen sometime in your lifetime or known of someone that will jump from job to job to job within the same career, but 1 year they're at place A, and then a year and a half later, they're putting a social media post saying, hey, great news, I am now transitioning to this role at organization B. And they might be there for a year or two, and then, hey, great news, I am transitioning to this role into organization C. And a lot of the times there can be 2 things to that. It's either that this person likes changing jobs a lot, but a lot of the times what happens there is that their network is strong and they get approached for different opportunities that people will come to them and say, hey, we've met several times at an event. We've had some great conversations. You form that connection over time. and I have an opportunity for you to explore. Would you be interested in hearing more? So a lot of those times, that's what happens in a career advancement scenario when people kind of get connected with the right people and they get asked to explore different opportunities. This can be the same with business growth, but it'll be a little bit different. Business growth will either be partnerships, clients, suppliers that can come from different networking opportunities. But those opportunities will come when you network. And that networking activity can't only be a one-time shot. In order to make those valuable connections, you need to be seen multiple times in different events, but you'll start running into the same people. And that's how you build those strong connections, by running into those same people over and over again, saying, oh, hey, I remember seeing you, meeting you at such and such an event. I'd love to pick up on what we talked about if you have a quick minute, and you can kind of build that into the conversation. So that is the power of leveraging your network for either business growth or career advancement. You can also find mentors, collaborators, and business partners, especially for the business growth, like I said, whether they're clients or collaborators or even suppliers. It's important to note that networking will never really bring you business or a career opportunity at the onset. So expectations need to be realistic. You can't think that I will go to this one networking event and I will gain 10 clients, or I will get this new job, or I will get a new opportunity presented to me right away. The key is consistency and repetitiveness. You need to do it. You need to be in front of those people. The more often that you are, the opportunities will then start to come as they get to know you and they get to see that you're involved, you're active, and you're engaged. On that subject, the networking is a long game, which touches well on this transition that results do take time, but the relationships that you build last. Those relationships that you build, or those connections with the people, will last no matter what. Whether there's an opportunity that comes from it or not, the connection is there. The connection will never go away. It just, if you're looking for a specific result, it might take time. It might take a little bit of repetitiveness, again, to attend events over and over again and let yourself be seen by all of these different people that will see you at any type of events. And I know that the Regional Service Commission, which I'd like to take a moment to thank for putting on this webinar today, they host a variety of events, as we do at the Chamber of Commerce, where they will bring connectors and connectees together in in a room to network. I was recently part of a panel where we discussed transferable skills in the workplace that was put on for the connectees. And that was a great experience because I even made connections that night with not only connectees, but fellow panelists that I hadn't met yet. So when I said earlier that whatever you do, you're kind of always networking in life. It doesn't need to be specifically at an event. You can be networking when you go to your favorite coffee shop, because you never know who you're going to meet there. It's possible to network in any types of daily situations. But always keep in mind and always keep in focus that it is a long game. You will very rarely see, and it can happen, but we will very rarely see results immediately. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some work, and it's going to take some effort. But you just need to remember that you can do hard things, and that with patience, resolve, and just consistency, these things will come naturally. The opportunities will come the more that you attend these events. So 3 things that you can do today, finalizing this presentation and the key takeaways from it. I am by no means, I know Joelle introduced me as kind of an expert. I'm in no way, shape, or form claiming to be an expert in the traditional sense of the word, but I've done it for so long that I can offer you those tips today, just as a way to help you understand how you can make better connections through your networking. So one of the 3 things you can do today is reach out to one weak tie. So we discussed it at the onset of this presentation A weak tie is an acquaintance, maybe a third-party connection, not someone that you're connected to actively on an everyday basis, but just to reach out. And a reach out is just a quick message on LinkedIn, Facebook, an email, a quick message to say, hey, how are you? Just wanting to touch base. We met several months ago, haven't really touched base, just wanted to say hello. Sometimes that will bring a response, sometimes it won't, but that is part of networking. You can also work a little bit on polishing your introduction. You can try it on a friend, on a partner, on your cat, on your dog, on your mirror. It doesn't matter, but having it polished will make it so that you can easily introduce yourself without some of the key things that we covered earlier being not sounding too robotic or rehearsed. But you'll be able to manipulate that introduction a little bit based on what kind of situation that you're in or what kind of event that you're in. And one of the biggest things when you network with anybody is to give without expectations. And that falls into getting the results back from the networking. I've had people reach out to me after attending one of our events and saying, well, I went to the business after hours event. I went to this networking event, but I didn't find a client. I didn't find a new job. I didn't get anything. But you've only been to one. So that comes back to the long game, right? You need to be present at more than one, and then you build those connections over time. A lot of the connections that I have today, I didn't have a year and a half ago when I started here at the Chamber. I didn't have them either after the first event that we had. But after I started seeing the same people over and over again at different events, whether they were a chamber event or they were an event put on by the Regional Service Commission or any other organizations like Venn Innovation or the city of Moncton will put on often events, job fairs, newcomer job fairs, things like that. Those are all networking opportunities. And it's by running into these people over and over and over again, having a quick 5-10 minute conversation. Hey, great to see you. That it builds that kind of long-term connection with them. And when you see them again, it's easier because you don't have to reintroduce yourself. It's just a continuation of what you've been talking about. And at the end of the day, it's those kind of long-term connections that will get you results in the long run. So with that being said, I will open it up to questions. I don't know if there was any in the chat. Joelle will be able to let me know. But anything on your mind, any questions you may have, please go for it.
No, I don't see any questions for now. We can open the floor. And so what I'll do is I'll stop the recording for now so that you can feel free and ask your questions away. Yeah. All right.